Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is on every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
With the auto insurance market constantly changing, call a professional that will put your needs first. Ray Felton State Farm is a team of licensed professionals that will assess your risk, explain coverage in detail, and assure you understand what would happen if you ever found yourself in a claim situation. You can visit rayfelton.com or call their office at 234-284-2996 for a free quote on your home, auto, renters, and life insurance needs.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
Hand and built leather goods. Leather goods built for life. Made by hand in the USA, all goods are made with veg-tanned leather. Some of the best quality around and made by a U.S. veteran. Check out their website, www.handbuiltleather.com. GV Art and Design is a creative boutique specializing in original artwork, design, and apparel. With 4 locations in Lakewood, Avon, Willoughby, and Kent, you can visit their store and check out their collections including Cleveland sports teams, Ohio colleges, and much more. Use the code ONTAP10 for 10% off your order. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind.
young man that's doing a great job filling in. He started the season as the backup, but that's Rocco DiLorenzo. Came in the first game of the year for the injured running starter. Came in this game, added another 24 rushing attempts, 144 yards. That puts him at about 440 yards on the season. So Rocco DiLorenzo has been kind of a staple or a rock for the Knights there for Nordonia. Another matchup pitted the Hudson Explorers against the Stowe Monroe Falls Bulldogs, and this was all Hudson, even without Ian Ludwig. He was out with an ankle injury. Filling in nicely was Tegan O'Gwyn. He had 12 rushing yards, 12 rushing attempts, 115 yards, 4 touchdowns in this matchup. I saw this a little bit when I was at the game against Cleveland Heights. He filled in admirably during that game when Ian Ludwig went out with his ankle injury. So he's got some talent to run the ball. Nathan Judy also had a rushing touchdown for the Explorers. Quarterback Peyton Naher, he was efficient, just 7 to 12 passing attempts, 112 yards. He did add a rushing touchdown. Trey Sharp and Nathaniel Coates had interceptions for the Explorers on defense. For Stowe, touchdowns from Tyler Harrington and Dalen Keeling were the only scores for Stowe. Those two combined for 99 yards receiving. Hudson improves to 3-1 on the year. Stowe drops to 0-4. They're having a rough go thus far. And probably, I would say, we got 2 more matchups in the Suburban League National. This was one of the good ones. Wadsworth, 35-24 over Twinsburg. The final score does not dictate or indicate how close this game really was. The scoring started with Will Stack for the Grizzlies. He scored on an 11-yard TD run in this game. He finished with 3 rushing touchdowns, a total of 51 yards. He also added 161 passing yards in this game. Twinsburg, Joey Pollock had a great game. He scored a rushing touchdown along with Aiden Stasinski, one of our players we had on last week during the interviews, to have the Tigers go up 14-7. Now in the third quarter for Twinsburg, Norrell Nichols hit a 35-yard field goal, and that actually put them up 24-21. And then the Grizzlies, they relied on Kyle Figueroa in this game. He wasn't used as much in the first half, but in the third quarter, he had a 37-yard TD run to put the Grizzlies up 31-24. He added another touchdown in the fourth quarter. In the game, he finished with 15 rushes, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns. As I mentioned, Joey Pollock for Twinsburg, 25 of 33 for 213 yards, 21 rushes, 63 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wadsworth improves to 3-1 on the year. Twinsburg drops to 2-2, but they're nothing to mess around with. The Tigers are hard out in this year. We talked to Coach Schulters early in the game. We also talked to Aiden Stasinski last week, and they're talking about the culture change happening there. Year 2 of Coach Schulters, so a lot of good things, positive things happening over there in Twinsburg. Now, this was one of our SOT featured games. This is the game I was at. This was the rivalry game, the Battle of the Golden Shoe. The Brecksville Bees, there we go, against the North Royalton Bears. Now, I text Sean during the game. This is my first time I've been to Brecksville in a long time, and I kept hearing the announcer for the Bees say Bees like Sean does. It just made me laugh, made me think of the old bearded guy we have on the show. Gave me warm thoughts for a little bit. Then I got over it.
That's weird.
So back to the Battle of the Golden Shoe. North Royalton has won the past 2 years, so there was a lot riding on this one for the Bees. The first score came at 11 minutes, 8 seconds into the with left in the first quarter. Colin Siebert hit Walker Null for a 79-yard touchdown score. The extra point was actually blocked later in the first. Running back Cody Miller for the Bears scores. And they actually hit the extra point, so North Royalton was up 7-6 in the first quarter. Colin Siebert in this game, now granted, one of the best balls I've seen thus far live. The kid could really sling the ball around. He finished the game 10 of 18 for 295 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The Bees, after Lucas Reeser's interception, Siebert scores on a 20-yard run to make it 13-7. It would stay 13-7 all the way up to the half. In the third quarter, Cody Miller for the Bears scores his second TD of the day. He took it to the house from about 50 yards, and that was on a 4th down play. So North Royalton actually retook the lead 14-13. The Bees would then add touchdowns from Jacob Aterovich and Kyle Keener in the third quarter. And then with 3:54 left in the fourth, Joe Kinney finds Luke Kaprowski to make it 26-21, still in favor of the Bees. But North Royalton could not do enough to score in the final drive. It was actually intercepted the final play of the game. Brecksville goes on to a 26-21 victory, improving their record to 3-1 on the year. North Royalton drops to 1-3. I'll kick it over to the bearded one, Professor Hype, Sean Duffy.
Well, thank you. The bearded one has arrived in all of his glorious form to talk to you about the Suburban League American Conference Week 4. We'll start off with Revere traveling in to take on Aurora, and it was Aurora's dominant first half that leads the way to a 49-14 victory over the Revere Minutemen. Aurora's quarterback Brandon Lipens had 3 touchdown passes on the night and a rush touchdown. Aurora running back Enzo Catania had a rushing touchdown as well, but also had a pick 6 in this game to give the Greenmen a 42-0 lead at 42-7 lead at halftime. For the Revere Minutemen, running back Zach Olakonwitz,
good effort.
Had an 88-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown as well as a rushing touchdown on the night, but it just wasn't enough as Aurora gets the 49-14 victory. They are 3-1. Revere falls to 2-2. Barberton had a really rough first quarter here in this game. They overcame penalties, multiple turnovers, and a 13-point deficit to get a 34-20 comeback win over Talmadge on the road at Talmadge. The Magics were led by Dominic Wilson, who finished 12 of 17 for 171 yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns. He had a rush touchdown, but he also had 3 interceptions on the game, which led to some points for Talmadge in the end. Running back Noah DeHart had a 65-yard punt return for a touchdown and also a 27-yard rushing touchdown in the game as well. And senior running back Xavier Macon chipped in with a 3-yard touchdown. He was also very effective on the defensive side of the ball. For the Blue Devils, quarterback Ryan Lovelace had a passing touchdown, and running back Ricky McLean had a rush touchdown. Wide receiver Caleb Reifsnyder had a receiving touchdown, and defensive back Mark Manzo had a pick 6 in this game as well. Again, one of those interceptions from Dominic Wilson. But it just, again, Barberton was able to overcome a lot of penalties, a lot of sloppy play, and in that 13-point deficit to get a 34-20 victory in Week 4. Barberton is 2-2, and Talmadge is 1-3. Our next matchup is Cuyahoga Falls and Kent Roosevelt. And don't look now, but guys, the Rough Riders of Kent Roosevelt are 3-1 after a 28-14 victory over Cuyahoga Falls in Week 4. For Roosevelt, running backs Anthony Helton and James Lewis each notched a rushing touchdown on the night. Quarterback Jack Smith had 1 passing touchdown and a rush touchdown, and wide receiver Jaden Portis was the receiver of that touchdown pass by Jack Smith. Cuyahoga Falls did everything they could. They erased an early 14-0 deficit and pulled within a couple of scores there, but unfortunately, they just could not stop Kent Roosevelt. Joey Earl had 2 passing touchdowns, one of those to Valentino Cargill and the other to Xavier Lindsay. Kent Roosevelt, guys, is 3-1 right now, and Cuyahoga Falls falls to 2-2. And perhaps the most interesting game of the American slate, we're going to go to Copley. And Highland went to Copley.
They played a game.
They dropped an 88 burger on Copley.
Wow.
I'll go through stats, and then we'll kind of dice this one out a little bit. The Hornets went into Copley, and again, dropped 88 points, dominating the Indians from the start. Highland tallied 505 yards rushing on 37 attempts in the game. They had 9 rushing touchdowns in this game. I tried to do this as best I could while piecing together stats, so if I've missed some stats, I can only tell you to go to the Medina Gazette because Albert Grindle did a fantastic write-up of this game, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But just to give you an idea of how this game played out, most of the starters, the varsity, stopped playing midway through the second quarter. So the stats that we're reading off here, you have to take into account that only these stats for most of these starters are about a quarter and a half worth of stats. So Casey Miser had 3 rush attempts for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Evan Grant, 4 carries, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Matt Syriac, 3 touchdowns, including a 56-yard punt return for a touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. Quarterback Peyton Janikis had 3 carries, 58 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He also went 3 for 3 passing and had 2 passing touchdowns. And again, as I mentioned, most of the Hornets starters were pulled in the second quarter, so it was really a JV game from about midway through the second quarter through the second half. The Indians, well, they scored against the Highland starters. Their only score actually was a rushing touchdown by Gabe Manzel. In the second quarter, Julian Bershak added a 58-yard touchdown, but it just, at that point, they ran into a buzzsaw that was the Highland rush offense right now. Highland did take a 63-14 lead into halftime. And again, according to Albert Grindle, who had a great write-up on this because he was at the game, of the Medina Gazette, Highland did all it could do to really run this clock out, and especially in the second half. In fact, a lot of it, at one point, they were on the Highland was on the 1-yard line, and they took 4 successive knees to give the ball back to Copley. And then, but unfortunately, Copley tried to go for it on 4th down. They snapped the ball into the end zone, and again, they fell on for the touchdown. Again, it wasn't. If you look at the score, you think Highland just ran it up. I don't think that's the case. A lot of this was, again, when you scored 9 touchdowns on the ground, you're doing everything you can to expedite the game. But unfortunately, Highland was just very successful, and Copley just did not have an answer for their rush game. So that's all the news that's fit to print from the American Conference. Our Suburban League Player of the Week nominee, we could have, and Josh and I discussed this at length. Mm-hmm. I wanted to give it to the entire Highland offense because, again, 505 yards. But we're going to give it to Casey Miser because when you couple this with his performances the last couple of weeks, he's been their bell cow. And that's a pretty efficient 3 carries, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns in a quarter of work. We're going to give him the nod. That was a pretty impressive performance there. Our Suburban League Player of the Week nominee is Highland running back Casey Miser. Again, 3 rush attempts, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
we'll look at.
And I'll add on to that real quick, Sean. Casey Miser's only a sophomore, so he's filling in real nicely. Came in, started, got a lot of time due to injury to the starter. We're seeing a lot of that. The starting running back, especially with Hudson and Tegan O'Gwyn and Rocco DiLorenzo or Nordonia, those guys are also worthy of being nominees, but we decided to give it to Casey. He's been doing really well, but I'm sure Rocco and Tegan and the rest of the Suburban League teams aren't going to have, they're going to have their say as we go further into conference play.
Sure. Well, let's look ahead and see what we got on tap for Week 5 in the National Division. Josh, why don't you break it down and tell us what's happening?
Yeah, we got Brecksville. We'll travel to Wadsworth at a very interesting game. Looking to see, Wadsworth has been kind of snipped by the penalties. Very undisciplined team thus far. Let's see if they can get those down. Nordonia travels to North Royalton. Hudson will travel to Twinsburg. And the only non-conference matchup will be the Stowe Monroe Falls Bulldogs will take on Austintown Fitch.
All right, and in the American Conference, we have Copley traveling in to see if they can shake off that beating that they took last week against Aurora. The road doesn't get any easier for them. Cuyahoga Falls travels in to take on Revere. Talmadge travels in to take on Highland. And Ken Roosevelt, don't look now, the 3-1 Ken Roosevelt Rough Riders travel in to take on the 2-2 Barberton Magics. Should be a good matchup to see right now who's competing for the top spots in the Suburban League American Conference.
Great work on that, guys. Between the National and the American Division, they have 7 teams that have at least 3 wins right now. And the only undefeated team right now is Nordonia, which certainly speaks to not only the strength of the conference, but you look at some of the non-conferences that's going on there as well. real quick, Josh, what's your biggest surprise so far looking at the Suburban League National Conference?
Well, kind of looking at Brecksville as a surprise. They struggle. They've been kind of down the last couple of years, but they seem to be kind of putting it together. Kind of talked to Jason Black after the game, and he was really, first of all, he was really excited for the team to get that victory against North Royalton. That's a great rivalry game, starting to get into really your division play. So you always want to get a win, but just also just adding, you mentioned Nordonia. That's a team that is just totally well-rounded and now plays solid offense, running the ball, but plays really good defense. They are led by their defense. Their coach Fox is all about, taking over, getting turnovers and turning those into points. So that's going to be looking forward to if they could continue on their winning ways, especially this Friday against North Royalton.
And Sean, we see that Kent Roosevelt is 3-1, and that's probably one of the best records we have seen them have through 4 games this season. Now they haven't taken on the likes of the Auroras and the Highlands yet, but do you think they can? What are your thoughts about them as they go through the season? Do you think they can continue to keep building that momentum until they get to one of those teams?
Well, I mean, they're going to have a pretty good litmus test this week against Barberton. They got to go on the road. They got to travel and beat a Barberton team that's really, I mean, you look at Barberton, they've been through the ringer, so to speak. They've had to overcome some adversity. Even last week, they were down 13-0. They found a way to win. They overcame some of their own mistakes and stopped shooting themselves in the foot. But I think Kent Roosevelt has a puncher's chance against a team like Barberton. Where I think it gets a little bit hairy is when you look at a team like Highland, the 4-0 Highland or an Aurora. Those are some stalwarts in the American Conference. But I'm very intrigued by Kent Roosevelt. I think, as you mentioned, that this is probably the best record they've had going into the second week of conference play since we've been covering them. I'm pretty impressed. I'm interested to see how their offense runs against a team like Barberton. I think maybe they're going to come up against a team that, is a little bit more talented than them and seeing how they react. But again, I'm very impressed with Kent Roosevelt thus far, and I'm very interested to see how they perform this week. Could that be, will I take a drive out to Barberton? We'll see. We'll talk about that.
That is why, folks, that is why he is the best business, or one of the guys that are also on the show. That is a tease for you from Sean Duffy and Josh Jeffy. Great job on the Suburban League. All right, let's shift over to the Southwestern Conference with our technical director, Rob Troutman. Rob, take it away.
All right, thanks, Ed. All right, let's get into week number 4 in the Southwestern Conference. We'll first start Midview traveling to Amherst, and this was a battle. Both teams doing a lot better this season, and the scoring, it started with the Middies turnover as Landon Fellenstein of Amherst had a pick 6 after he ran 68 yards for a touchdown. Midview in this game had 4 turnovers, and that seems to be a lot of the differences in a lot of their games are them turning over the ball. So let's see if they can improve on that. And they've improved a lot this season. But Midview, this is the one thing they haven't done in the past. They bounced back with a 57-yard touchdown pass. Quarterback Ethan Albert to wide receiver Dior Jones. It was 7-7 at half in this game. Then the Comets, they went on a 10-0 run in the second half with a 28-yard field goal from kicker Nathan Stewart and a 17-yard pass from quarterback Cole Norris to wide receiver Eli Solak. Amherst, they get the win 17-7 in this game. They improved to 3-1 as Midview falls to 2-2. But give credit really to both teams in this game. Midview already matched their win total from a year ago, and Amherst already much improved from the past 2 seasons, notching their 3rd win. And give credit to Coach Jack Armstrong of Midview and Tom Thome of Amherst. I mean, both these programs look like they're starting to turn it around a little bit, slowly but surely. And give credit to Amherst. I mean, really turned around with a 3-1 record. Again, a 17-7 winner over Midview. Avon and Elyria. Boy, this was a tough one for Elyria, and it was the homecoming for offensive tackle Luke Hamilton. He actually attended school in Elyria until 8th grade, And you might remember his dad. He was head coach at Elyria for probably 20 years. It was head coach Steve Hamilton. But this game, it was all Avon as quarterback Nolan Good started the scoring early, throwing for 146 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for a 13-yard score. Running back Jacorian Caffey for Avon had a big game in this one, 109 yards and a touchdown, all in the first half. The Eagles jumped out to a 21-0 lead in this game and really never looked back. They win big in this one, 42-6. Avon stays undefeated at 4-0 as Elyria falls to 0-4. North Ridgeville traveling to Olmsted Falls, and you want to talk about a heavyweight battle. This was one battling atop the SWC. The Rangers, they really wanted to prove that they belonged with the big boys, and they really have struggled with the Avons and Olmsted Falls in the past. Would they get a win on this night? Well, North Ridgeville, they held the Bulldogs' offense to 70 yards total offense on this night. But it was a defensive battle really by both teams. You got to give credit to Olmsted Falls in this one as well. Their defense came to play, but the difference came on an 18-yard touchdown run by Charlie Steinmetz, who was on our show a few weeks ago. If you want to check it out, go to our YouTube, subscribe, and you'll be able to see Charlie talking about his season so far in the Rangers. But he ran.
Dynamite drop in, Rob. Dynamite drop.
Hey, man, I'm Professor Hype here.
That's right. Hey, I take after the best right there, Sean. I have a lot to work on, but I'm trying here. Steinmetz, he ran for 86 yards. 76 of those yards came in the second half. Both teams did get field goals, one by Olmsted Falls' Jack Birch on a 26-yard field goal, and North Ridgeville's Austin DeShazo, a 37-yard field goal. But both defenses forced turnovers and played really well in this game. But it was North Ridgeville hanging on for a 10-3 win. They stay unbeaten at 4-0, and the Bulldogs drop to 3-1 on the season. Congratulations to Coach Morgan and the Rangers going 4-0 right now, and what a turnaround he has done with that program. Great job there. Now, our featured Sports on Tap game of the week in Week 4 was Berea Mid-Park traveling to Avon Lake, and this was a really fun game. It's always fun in Avon Lake. I want to thank them for having me out there. But the Shoremen, they got off to a quick start, and it was running back Wade Nelson on a touchdown run. They also got a field goal in this game, so it was Avon Lake leading 10-0 at half, and it was a low-scoring defensive battle. Avon Lake, though, they weren't messing around in the second half. They came out and scored first in that second half on a Jake Bova touchdown, and it was interesting because there were a lot of big plays in this game, and there were probably 3 or 4 that got called back. They were touchdown runs or really 50 yards and above that got called back, and one of the few plays was called back, but the next play was wide receiver Derek McCrum, the wide receiver. He's going to Pennsylvania on a full scholarship. The Avon Lake receiver took it to the 1-yard line where he got tackled, but then Bova ran it in for a touchdown. Berea Mid-Park, they would strike after wide receiver and Bowling Green commit Austin Clay would take a return deep into Shoreman territory. He's very dangerous. On every kickoff, return, and punts, surprisingly, they kicked to him a lot in this game. He always had a big return and really set up the Berea Mid-Park offense, but they struggled to score, but not on this drive. It was quarterback Danny Bowser III connecting with Austin Clay for the touchdown over the middle, and they got a little bit closer there, but Avon Lake again would respond. One time, running back Wade Nelson, and the SWC Player of the Week nominee, he would take a long run to the house, but it got called back. So what did they do? They gave it to him again, and this time it did count. From 42 yards out, running back Wade Nelson would score, and the Shoremen have a 24-7 lead. And with great defense by Avon Lake, they created a lot of pressure for Bowser and that high potent offense for the Titans, and they kept him in check all night. 24-7 was the final score. Avon Lake getting a big win at home against Berea Mid-Park. The Shoremen improved to 3-1 on the season, while Berea Mid-Park falls to 1-3. The SWC Ray Felton State Farm Player of the Week nominee is Avon Lake running back Wade Nelson, who ran for 116 yards on 15 carries and 2 touchdowns. And, you know, the numbers might not sound unbelievable, but in this game, he really dictated the offense for Avon Lake. And when their offense would sputter a little bit, they put the ball in his hands, and he'd always get positive yardage and start getting first downs. He was a big reason of why they won this game, and he was a little bit under the weather even in this game, but was able to suit up and felt good enough, obviously, to run 116 yards. So congratulations to Wade Nelson, the Ray Felton State Farm Player of the Week in the Southwestern Conference for Week 4. All right, and Week 5 in the Southwestern Conference. Some good matchups here. Berea Mid-Park, they travel to Amherst, try to get on their winning ways. North Ridgeville is going to host Avon, so that's a big one. Battle of Undefeateds in the SWC. Avon Lake traveling to Midview, and Olmsted Falls traveling to Elyria. So some good matchups there. Can Elyria, try to get in the win column there? Their defense has been holding on, but then it's tough. They get worn down throughout the week. But Avon Lake and Midview, that should be a really good game. And how about Amherst? Let's see what they do against Berea Mid-Park. But I'm really intrigued by Avon and North Ridgeville. Avon, their closest game is versus a very good Glenville team. So can North Ridgeville, on back-to-back weeks, they're really got some tough games. Olmsted Falls, they win 10-3. Can they notch another big win in the SWC? We'll wait and see how that one falls on Friday night.
Rob, great job with the Southwestern Conference as always, and I think you really hit the nail on the head there. The question is, North Ridgeville, slayed one of the giants of this conference last week with Olmsted Falls. The question is, can they maintain that consistency with Avon and Avon Lake forthcoming for sure? Because those two teams, along with Olmsted Falls, have traditionally been the upper echelon of the SWC. And they're certainly going to get their test against Avon. I think for North Ridgeville, can they defeat the other teams that they are probably generally more known to be grouped with?
Yep.
In order to put themselves ahead of them and get into that upper echelon.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's going to be a tough battle versus Avon. Good thing for them, it is at home, so they have that going. But Avon has an offensive line that has been absolutely dominant this season. But give credit to North Ridgeville, their defense has held teams in check for most of it. I mean, look at Olmsted Falls. They're used to putting up a lot of points. They're held to 3 points. So North Ridgeville's defense is no slack either. So let's see what they can do against an Avon team that, has some D1 prospects, on the offensive line, in running back. Look at Nolan Good has been putting up big numbers as a junior. They're going to really have their hands full with that offense, but North Ridgeville, give them credit. They've had every task at hand so far this season, and like you said, they got some tough battles going in the SWC with Amherst and Midview really getting better. Avon Lake's always there, Olmsted Falls, Avon, and Berea Mid-Park falls in the middle. They're still a tough team. They played some tough teams early on that gives them that 1-3 record. A Cleveland Heights team, that is one of the top teams. They're going to be battling in the SWC. Avon Lake had their number. It was a tough place to play. The student section in Avon Lake was tough. Let's see how they bounce back against Amherst. But North Ridgeville, let's keep your eyes on them. It's going to be a fun one on Friday.
Very much so. Very much so. All right, great job, Rob. Let's move over to the Greater Cleveland Conference with Dr. Hoops himself, Noah Jacobson, to take it away here.
Well, thank you, Ed. And as we get ready to start week 4 of conference play in the Greater Cleveland Conference, we'll start off with the Shaker Heights Red Raiders taking on the Euclid Panthers. And guys, this was a no-brainer for Shaker Heights. Quarterback Abdullah Ahmad finished the game. He was 12 of 17 for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 5 carries for 13 yards and a touchdown. Running back Cornell Beard had 24 carries for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Cameron Jackson had 2 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown. And Aiden Murray had 2 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. For Euclid, quarterback Robert King III finished the game with 16 of 26 for 195 yards. Running back Darius Batches had 13 carries for 100 yards. He had a touchdown. Wide receiver Jamal Jefferson Jr. had 4 catches for 76 yards. But guys, in the end, the Shaker Heights Red Raiders, they are the real deal in the Greater Cleveland Conference, starting the season at 4-0 for the first time since 2013. What a story this is for Shaker Heights coming in to the Greater Cleveland Conference as they win this game 40-13. As they move to 4-0, Euclid drops to 1-3. And then moving forward to our next game, the Medina Bees took on the Menor Cardinals. And guys, this was a kind of a shootout. Medina took the lead 41-28 with 11:03 left in the fourth quarter. But the Menor Cardinals stormed back to stun the Medina Bees 42-21. Medina quarterback Danny Stoddard finished the game. He was 28 of 54 for 341 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also did have 2 interceptions. He also had 19 carries for 112 yards. And then Medina wide receiver Jack Wiljack had 7 catches for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 9 carries for 28 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Austin Knowles had 12 catches for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Menor's quarterback Scotty Fox finished with 10 of 24 for 150 yards. He also did have 2 interceptions, but he had 20 carries for 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. But he went down in the game. And then their backup quarterback Ben Pierce was 3 for 6 for 80 yards and a touchdown. He also did have 4 carries for 6 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown came to Justin Hodge with a one-handed catch from 55 yards with 1:31 left in the goal to go in the game to give them the lead. He finished that game with 12 catches for 107 yards and 131 yards and a touchdown. But in the end, the Menor Cardinals stunned the Medina Bees 42-41. And then moving on to our next game, the Solon Comets, a little bit of a preview edition of the Suburban League against the Nordonia Knights. But in the end, Nordonia took the win 31-12. Quarterback Lord Kumuth for the Comets. He finished the game. He was 30 of 52 for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Brian McQuaid had 18 catches for 57 yards and touchdown. But in the end, Solon, kind of a little bit of a preview edition against a very good Nordonia Knights team. They lose 31-12, dropping to 0-4 in the season. Starting off the season for the Comets, they started off with 4 straight road games, but it kind of feels like they have a very good momentum going into week 5 on their home turf. They'll feel very comfortable, but I think they'll be just fine right back on their own field. And then the Strongsville Mustangs took on the Benedictine Bengals. This was the first ever matchup between these two teams. Quarterback Harsh Bartel, who was my Player of the Week nominee in the Greater Cleveland Conference. He was 11 for 16 for 151 yards and 4 touchdowns. Wide receiver Jeremy Knopf had 3 catches for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. And running back Xavier Belvin had 26 carries for 82 yards. Guys, Strongsville dominated the game 27-9 over Benedictine, dropped the record to 2-2. And then my featured game of the week in the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Cleveland Heights Tigers started the Greater Cleveland Conference against the Brunswick Blue Devils. And guys, give Brunswick's defense a lot of credit. I mean, they held Marquise Davis all night in the first half. Their defense was unbelievable. Quarterback Ethan Roxanich. Brunswick did not score until the second quarter as he got a touchdown run. And then they scored a field goal to make it 10-0 into halftime. But when you have Marquise Davis, they run that ball pretty good as he had 2 touchdowns in the second half to get them the 13-10 lead. And then their defense came up with a big 4th down stop. But in the end, Cleveland Heights came back to win 13-10, giving them their record to 3-1. Brunswick drops to 0-4, but give Brunswick's defense a lot of credit. I mean, they held Marquise Davis to only 122 yards. Give them a lot of credit, and I feel like they had a really good game plan going up against Marquise Davis. And I feel like the way their defense played, I feel like they've got a lot of good momentum going against Medina next week, and that is their Greater Cleveland Conference Week 4 recap. And then the schedule for the Greater Cleveland Conference is for Week 5. The Brunswick Blue Devils taking on the Medina Bees, a little bit of the Tom Fasco Grinding Classic. And then the Menor Cardinals taking on the Cleveland Heights Tigers. This should be a pretty interesting matchup in that. And the Euclid Panthers will be taking on the Strongsville Mustangs. The Shaker Heights Red Raiders coming off a 4-0 start, taking on the Maple Heights Mustangs. And then the Solon Comets will be taking on the Mayfield Wildcats, and that is the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Very good. Nice job, Noah. As you mentioned, Brunswick and Cleveland Heights had a battle. They are familiar foes with each other. This isn't the first time they've played each other, but obviously, after 90 years in the Lake Erie League, Cleveland Heights joins the Greater Cleveland Conference, and has a rough one against Brunswick. What do you think was the big key that was enabled Brunswick to play very well defensively against Cleveland Heights?
I feel like the big game was probably their D line. I feel like they've been holding Marquise Davis all night long in that. And I feel like the way the defense was able to play, it was unbelievable in that. And it feels like they have a lot of good confidence going up against a very high-powered Medina offense. And you never know. They could come into Medina and they could just keep dominating Dan Starter all night long. But who knows? We'll see what happens.
Very good. As you mentioned, Cleveland Heights gets their first ever conference win in Greater Cleveland Conference play. And we have a couple games on Thursday as Shaker Heights and Solon go out of conference to take on a couple foes from the east side. All right, great job on that, Noah. And I mentioned you with Cornell Beard coming on from Shaker Heights. We'll certainly have some representation from the Greater Cleveland Conference. So we look forward to speaking with him at around the 8:30ish time frame. All right, let's move on to the Great Lakes Conference, which is the conference that I cover. Our first game is a crossover GLC matchup between the Buckeye Bucks and the North Olmsted Eagles. Buckeye had not defeated North Olmsted since the Great Lakes Conference came to be. The Bucks did leave 21-7 at the half, led by a 32-yard pick six by Ranger Metter. The Bucks did pull away in the second half. Running back Troy McCann, he rushed 26 times for 221 yards and 4 touchdowns. That is good for his rushing yards. He is now in the top 10 total rushing in school history. Bucks quarterback Casey Murray completed 8 of 11 passes for 130 yards and a touchdown. Model of efficiency right there. Bucks wide receiver Austin Heyer caught 2 passes for 51 yards and a touchdown. I think if I'm not mistaken, he has got 5 receptions on the year, 4 of which are touchdowns. Super efficient. Usually when the ball goes to Austin, he's going to score a touchdown. On the North Olmsted side, quarterback Tommy Horsfall completed 15 of 35 passes for 179 yards. And he had 11 rushes for 59 yards. He did have 2 touchdowns on the ground. Running back Michael Pasafumi ran 15 times for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. That can't be right. Yeah, it is right, actually. 2 touchdowns for, I should just read my own writing, for North Olmsted. And with that, Buckeye gets a big 51-28 victory over North Olmsted. With the victory, Buckeye head coach Greg Dennison becomes the winningest coach in Medina County history. He now has 199 wins between about 20 seasons with Wadsworth and the last 7 or so with Buckeye. So congratulations to Coach Dennison. And from my limited interactions with Coach Dennison, we were both at Brunswick. I can tell you that it is a credit to his assistant coaches and most importantly the student athletes. He's an extremely humble man, and I think he would credit them more than he'll credit himself. With the win, he does pass Black River's Al Young as the winningest coach in Medina County history. So congratulations to Coach Dennison and the Buckeye Bucks. Buckeye remains undefeated at 4-0. North Olmsted falls to 0-4. Westlake took on Normandy. The battle of the undefeated versus the battle of the winless. Normandy did take an early 8-0 lead with a safety and a touchdown, but Westlake countered with a passing touchdown by Jonah Gandao and a rushing touchdown by Matt Porcelli. Normandy answered back with 2 rushing touchdowns. They took a 21-14 lead Westlake responded with another passing touchdown by Gandayo and a rushing touchdown by Jake Ostrowski. But Westlake's defense repeatedly thwarted the Invaders, and the Demons hold on for a 28-21 win. Westlake remains undefeated at 4-0. Normandy is winless at 0-3. Elyria Catholic took on Holy Name. Both teams are looking for their first wins after deep runs in the playoffs the last few years. This is a rematch of the 2022 Great Lakes Conference Championship game, which was won by Holy Name. Elyria Catholic's Hector Garcia had himself a day. He completed 17 of 25 passes for 332 yards and 3 touchdowns. His touchdowns went to Teddy Bunninger, one of which was an 80-yarder, Xavier Castillo, and Mason Halliburton. Bunninger had 3 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. Halliburton had 6 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. Graydon Rollins had 28 yards on the ground off of 6 carries. He also had a touchdown. The big player for this one on the defensive side was Tim Phillips for Elyria Catholic. He had 13 tackles, 10 of which were solo. He had 6.5 tackles for loss. He also had 2 fumble recoveries, and he also had 2 touchdowns on defense. And for that, he did earn the Great Lakes Conference Player of the Week nominee for the Ray Felton State Farm poll. EC gets their first win of the season by a count of 42-17 over the Green Wave. Chase Ferris gets his first win as an Elyria Catholic head coach. They improved to 1-3. Holy Name falls to 0-4. The next game, Bay Village took on Valley Forge. As my cohort, my compadre, my colleague likes to say, a game was played, and Valley Forge was there, but Bay was also there. And they had 5 rushing touchdowns, 2 by Charlie Rogers for 3 and 65 yards, 1 for Brendan Spellman. Tell you what, Brendan Spellman's been a staple for Bay for quite a while. It seems like we've been talking about him forever. He had a 69-yard touchdown run, and we had 2 touchdowns by Rocco Aritario, covering 11 and 46 yards. With the win, Bay wins 34-0. They improved to 3-1. Valley Forge drops to 1-3. Let's see. We're going to go to the last game that I have to talk about is Fairview versus Lutheran East. And I'll tell you what, Fairview's been knocking on the door against some good competition, and they finally busted through it. Fairview pulled away from the Falcons in the second half after a 21-14 lead. Warriors quarterback Burke Lowry, he had 11 completed passes out of 18 passes for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a running touchdown. Quinn Bruder rushed 14 times for 78 yards and a touchdown. Nolan Reese caught 2 passes for 39 yards and a touchdown. He also had a pick 6 that covered 25 yards. And Savion Harris also rushed for a 15-yard touchdown. I am very glad to be able to talk very positively and mention a lot of these names for Fairview. They get their first win. I can't leave out Pat Canfield. He had yards all over the place. He had 163 total yards between rushing, receiving, kick returns, and interception returns. He was all over the place on all 3 phases of the game. Add it all up, it's a 35-14 victory for Fairview over Lutheran East. Fairview wins their first game. They improved to 1-3. Lutheran East falls to 2-2. Our SOT feature game of the week was Rocky River versus Lakewood, battle of 2-1 teams. And our own Sean Duffy was at that game, and he can break down what happened at that game for us.
Yeah, I was at that game, and as you mentioned about the Bay Village Valley Forge game, very similar tagline there, Ed. A game was played, and in this particular game, it was the Julian. We're going to have him on the show here in a few minutes, but it was the Julian Patti show because he had a fantastic game against Lakewood. It seemed like every pass he threw either went for a big gain or a touchdown. He had about 4 touchdowns in the game passing. Not to be outdone, Nick DeSalvo was the bell cow on the ground for them. I mean, this was a blowout from the beginning. It was 42-0, I believe, at halftime. 43-0 at halftime. Lakewood, again, to their credit, did keep the fight up. They were able to score on a 16-yard pass from Avery Holt to Alex Simmons late in the game, and then a 7-yard touchdown run from Carryon Ford. But Rocky River was just too much to handle in this game. Julian Patti hooked up with the following receivers, and I'm just going to list them as best as I can. Rowan McDougal had a touchdown in this game. Ryan Ricchetti had 2 touchdowns, receptions in this game. Nick DeSalvo had a huge, huge run. And if it wasn't for a safety with a great angle, he probably would have had 2 touchdowns in the night. But unfortunately, Nick DeSalvo only got 1 touchdown. But not to be outdone, Julian Patti threw to Ryan Ricchetti for the 2nd touchdown of the night in that game. He also connected with Andrew Lang for a really great looking touchdown. And then again, Rocky River was just it was all Rocky River all night. What was impressive to me was was Rocky River's defense. They were they weren't allowing anything behind them in the secondary, which was interesting because I think Lakewood was trying to go vertical early. And it was something that I noticed that they were allowing them to get not behind them, but you could see they were playing. I don't know if it was a man or a man zone or something like that, but they weren't jamming off of the line, but they were almost just kind of playing patty cake with them as they were going down. They were never letting them out of touch. And then they were kind of waiting for the break because Lakewood had a couple of in-breaking routes that early on they were getting a little bit of success. But once they made some adjustments, it was game over. But, huge win for Rocky River. It was senior night for the Pirates, all the athletes. It was a fun atmosphere. But, yeah, it was really impressive. And Julian Patti, I can't wait to talk to him. I wonder if he had to ice his arm down because, again, just every pass looked like it was going to go. And it could have gone for a touchdown. But, yeah, it was a it was a fun night, fun atmosphere. Always love going out to Rocky River. The crowd was pumped. Lakewood had a great crowd, but unfortunately they just, again, it got pretty quiet pretty quick there on the side of which I was, because I'm always on the away side because it's easier to navigate. But I know, again, my streak is intact. I was almost taken out by a wide receiver. I think it was Andrew Lang who was coming after me, trying to catch a ball out of bounds, and I was trying to get the video, and I could have been killed. I mean, let's just be honest. I could have been killed. And pray for me because, I'm not a very. Did
you get the video though? Did you get the video?
No, because it was an incomplete pass. When they were running it like it was like a bend route to the sideline, and I was on the sideline trying to find the ball. And I'm like, oh, that's a great frame. That's a great frame. I got the ball. And then in my head, I'm like, the ball's coming towards you. That means someone's coming towards you. And I look down, and there's a Rocky River and a Lakewood DB full speed at me. And then I cried and ran away like a little girl.
Oh, man. I was hoping to see that video on our website, sportsontap.podcast.com. Everybody can go see the highlights from that game.
I tell you what, you go to YouTube and you subscribe, and we get up to 1,500 subscribers. And I'll put some video on there of me getting taken out. I mean, I'll probably be in the hospital for days afterwards. But
it'll be worth it.
That's what happens when you hit 1,500.
Sean, great job as always covering the game. Sister coming over to handle some of the Great Lakes Conference as well. Some of the games are a little more competitive than others, as we've seen over the years. But on paper, it was a great matchup, and Rocky River and Coach Wells had a really good plan, and their players executed perfectly. And we will be talking to one of those players here very shortly. Let me get through the Great Lakes Conference for Week 5 real quick. It will be more cross-division action. On Thursday night, it will be Bay Village taking on Normandy at Byers Field. On Friday night, Westlake travels to Buckeye in a battle of the undefeateds. Elyria Catholic travels to Lakewood. Fairview goes out of conference to play at Delaware, Buckeye Valley. Rocky River travels to Valley Forge, also at Byers Field. And then on Saturday, North Homestead will take on Holy Name at North Royalton. Both teams are looking for their first win. All right. Speaking of the Great Lakes Conference, I believe, Rob, I think we should have Julian Patti about ready to join us here, our quarterback for Rocky River. Looking forward to speaking with him here. In the meantime, I will get my the other PowerPoints that need to be addressed up here. Get that ready to roll.
You have PowerPoints? Oh yeah.
Oh man!
All right, I think there he is. We are joined by Rocky River quarterback Julian Patti. He had a tremendous a tremendous game against Lakewood. Really, just a great season so far. A couple of stats here. I think it was 16 to 23 passing for over 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. As Sean likes to say, that usually merits chocolate milk, but nonetheless, we will be happy to talk with you when you get there. Julian, how are you doing tonight? Save for the video.
Man, he was there.
Was.
Let's see, maybe he's having some connection issues. He was there and then faded.
Tell you what, Patti and Rocky River has seen a little bit of a renaissance here, as we have. Last year, and Coach Wells mentioned this when we talked to him in the preseason. They obviously didn't finish the way they wanted to. They didn't start the way they wanted to, and he kind of addressed why there. And I think you can very much tell that the seniors this year were hell bent on making sure that wasn't going to happen again. Three really good victories so far for Rocky River, and they hung with Sandusky Perkins for a little bit there. Sandusky Perkins is just another animal altogether right now. Compared to their schedule, they are an absolute machine. But Rocky River so far has victories over Painesville, Harvey, John Marshall, and now Lakewood. Julian, you there? His face is popping up.
All right, his audio. Let's see.
Trying. But I will say this, Ed. It was very clear.
Sorry.
There he is.
There we go.
There it is.
My bad.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
Not a problem.
No worries. How you doing tonight, Julian?
Good. So I was at my sister's soccer game, and then I just went to my car, so that's my bad. And I had audio issues.
All good. We appreciate you supporting the family there. It's always a good thing. Julian,
yeah.
What a great victory against Lakewood last week. We read over the stats a little bit. Over 300 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. We mentioned and we talked to Coach Wells about this earlier in the season, but so far this season has started off a lot better than last year's season. What do you attribute that to? The fast start this year compared to last year.
Honestly, I feel like this year we had a true identity in our offense. I feel like last year wasn't too sure if we were really a run team or a pass team, and so we wouldn't really pass that much, and we struggled with the run game. So this year we really focused on our pass game and just really dialed in on all the plays, all of our audibles, and just all of our routes and everything. So just our identity and stuff like that.
Now, Julian,
I'm
sorry, Sean. I was going to say, as Julian, as the quarterback of the team during the offseason, did you find yourself kind of taking upon yourself to be a more active leader and getting everyone on the same page and trying to decide what kind of offense would suit this team best along with the coaches?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I created a group chat for our receivers, and usually I tried at least every other day to get routes with our receivers. And I feel like it really paid off. We had a really good group of receivers this year, and a lot of them are really hardworking. So whenever I texted them, they always were down to meet up at the field, and we all worked on our concepts and all our routes and our timing and stuff like that. So,
well, that was clearly on display Friday night, as I was mentioning during my recap of your game. I was at your game Friday night, and it seemed to me that at any point in time, every time you drop back to throw the ball, it was either going to go for at least 20 yards or a touchdown, because it just seemed like, my fingers, I got bruises on my thumbs from trying to keep up with you. And at one point, you guys were scoring touchdowns, and I think I missed one of your touchdowns because I was trying to update your touchdown from the previous one. But it was really impressive. And is that something you made, a special note to work on, is getting better timing and things like that with your receivers in the off season? Or what are some of the things you worked on to better your craft?
Honestly, I feel like the biggest thing I worked on was consistency, because I feel like my junior year was my first year starting, and I would have some good throws, but also have a lot of off throws. So I made sure this year, during practice, every single throw is on target, and if more and more throws are on targets, that leads for more opportunities for touchdowns. So just consistency and just really just accuracy with the timing, I guess, and all that.
Julian, thank you again for joining us tonight. It feels like your guys' offense so far. You guys are averaging 42 points per game. I just got to ask, what is it like playing for Coach Wells' run-heavy offense as you guys continue to put points on the board throughout these first 4 weeks in the game?
It feels great. I mean, like I said though, we kind of switched transition from a run heavy offense to our pass heavy offense. So really, honestly, before the season, with all of our putting in concept, putting in plays, and how efficient we really expected to put up a lot of points on the board and be really fast paced. So but it's been really fun. It's been compared to last year, I'm having 3 times as much fun. So yeah, it's just yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys, you've won 3 out of 4 games. Obviously, Sandusky Perkins, they're a tough team this season, but
No, they're good.
You mentioned it. You're now a pass-heavy team, and look at the points you guys have put up. 55 points in the first game, 42 in the second game, 28 in the third. It was a loss, but you still put up 28, and then in the last game, 46. So you guys obviously are feeling comfortable with this offense. How much fun are you having it, and what kind of smile did you put on your face when Coach Wells said, hey, I think we're going to let you air out and throw the football a little bit more this year?
Yeah, no, I had a big smile on my face. I took the challenge, and honestly, as the season's going on, I just feel more and more comfortable in the pocket because last year I didn't drop back as much as this year.
Yeah.
So transition from game 1 to game 4, I just feel very, very comfortable in the pocket, and it makes it more fun to be out there. And it's just the best thing ever, playing backyard football.
Yep.
You throw the ball around and all that. So it almost feels like backyard football. So, yeah.
Now, is it tough when you come under pressure?
You mentioned that you.
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say it to kind of go off of that. You mentioned that you didn't drop back a lot last year, and now you are. From your standpoint, has your offensive line gotten more a more cohesive unit to help pass block better? Because I know when you switch from running to pass blocking, run blocking to pass blocking, there is a bit of a fall off a little bit when you make that transition. You start passing a lot. Have you seen a lot of work from your offensive line to make sure they're getting you the protection that you need?
No, I 100%. I've seen a lot of work because our line this year is definitely newer. 4 new varsity starters, so I see a lot more passion, and we're a little less in weight, but I would say our athleticism is better. And all of our dropbacks, whenever we do a pass play, it's 50 protection, which means it just kick back. Everyone does a kick, whatever you call it. Everyone drops back, back pedals instead of slide protection. So I think that scheme makes it easier for our offensive linemen, and it's been working out really well. So hopefully it continues to do that.
We're talking with Rocky River senior quarterback Julian Patti. Julian, you have I know you probably just very, very early stages of your prep for Valley Forge coming up here. Without giving too much away, what are you looking at for keys to succeed against Valley Forge this week?
Honestly, just continue doing what we've been doing, just putting points on the board, getting that momentum going, picking up for the defense and stuff like that. I know our defense can do a great job too, but really just we don't really have any big game plan. Just I feel our offense attacks all parts of the defense, so whatever they give us, we'll take, really.
And that is certainly proven to be true. Last question before we get you back to your sister soccer game here.
All good.
We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Nick DeSalvo here. I know Coach Walls had a lot of good things to say about it. Nick has been an absolute stud this year alongside you and some of your other teammates. What's the impact of with its offense kind of flipping a little bit from a run heavy to a pass heavy? I mean, Nick's still averaging over 10 yards a carry. It seems like what is his impact, and how much has he made your job easier?
I mean, he's huge. I mean, not only with us passing so much, even though you think they're gonna have to game plan for me and our passing offense, they still have to game plan for a running back. So, especially when we're down in the count, he just can explode out of any run. He has this huge explosion, and it's nice because our running back depth isn't that big this year. So us passing mostly helps him out a lot. So him getting 15 carries a game and getting 150 yards is huge for us. So I feel he's the exploding factor for our team. It's just great. For example, Perkins, we had a slow start, and he actually had the first 3 touchdowns of the game of like 50+ yard runs. So yeah.
Hey, I do have one more question, Julian. You mentioned it before that this year you're having fun, and believe it or not, we can't tell that you're having fun. This has been awesome, man. You got some energy about you, but I really talk about how much fun you are having, because I would like to actually have you be like my hype man, Professor Hype for me, because you got a positive attitude. So how much fun are you having?
Just the most fun. I feel like I just feel like Friday night's the best part of the week. It's what I'm looking forward to, and I'm gonna be sad when it's gone, but just enjoying the moment, I guess. And it just, throwing a touchdown, getting a touchdown is probably the hypest thing that will happen in all sports, I feel like, for myself. So, yeah.
Well, keep it up,
And
man.
the energy the
Congrats.
crowd brings, too.
Yeah, keep it up. Congrats. Keep up that energy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Julian, we can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day and out of your night to join us.
No problem.
You've been putting up some very big numbers. Coach Wells spoke very highly of you to us, and I'm really glad we got to talk to you. Your demeanor is fantastic. You're having a great year, and best of luck to you for this week against Valley Forge and for the rest of the season. And hopefully we can catch up with you and maybe some of your teammates a little bit later down the line.
I appreciate it. I'm very thankful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Julian.
We appreciate it.
Julian.
That is
Rocky.
Thank you.
My bad.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good. Have a good one.
All right. Sorry about that. Thank you. Bye.
That is Rocky River senior quarterback Julian Patti, one of the happiest dudes you'll see. And given the state of their health, I can't say I blame him. So the Rocky River Pirates will go to Byers Field this coming Friday to take on the Valley Forge Patriots in cross-division action for the Great Lakes Conference. Let's shift over to the Greater Cleveland Conference. In one, we're going to go to a team where they left, they came back, they were there, they left, they came back, first season back in a few years. We're joined by Cornell Beard from Shaker Heights. Cornell, thanks for joining us tonight. How you doing? Oh, connecting to audio.
Yep.
In the meantime, I will...
There he is. How you doing, Cornell?
Hey, Cornell.
How you doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
It took me a minute to get on here. My phone was acting up.
All good. All good. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and out of your season to have a couple words with us. You guys had a great win over Euclid, conference win. Before that, a big win over Solon, also a conference win. So I mean, 2-0 in the conference to start. From coming back to the Great Lake from the Lake Erie League to the Greater Cleveland Conference. How's it feel so far? How's it feel being back in the Greater Cleveland Conference and putting some wins together and getting to 2-0 in conference play?
I mean, I feel like the job's still not done. It's like we worked hard over the summer to get where we at, and I feel like Euclid, even though like we won, I feel like Euclid really gave us work, and it's really about to improve when we go against Maple and all the other teams we got coming up.
Hey, Cornell, thanks for joining us. You guys the past 2 years, have only won 3 games, and now this year you've already run 4. So what, you mentioned the work hasn't done. What's the attitude like every day in practice, and then eventually going into the games for a team that is finding some success this year, being 4-0?
Sometimes the practice is not always like good, but like it's like when it come to game time, we just realize like nobody respects us. Like we have to still earn. We still have to work every day, and every team we go against, like it's not gonna be earned. Like we just have to work and hold each other accountable every time.
Cornell, again, thank you for joining us. I always like to ask this of skill position players from year to year. What are some of the things that you really focused on in your off season and even during the season that you're working on to get your performance, better each week?
Yeah, I started playing running back my freshman year, like, because I was usually like a linebacker, so I wrestled and I did track, and I also like worked on my craft, like my jump cuts, my cuts, and I also like watched some of like film. That's why I really think like my craft got better at, because I just kept staying consistent at it and like stretching and staying in the weight room.
Cornell, again, thank you again for joining us tonight. Again, I'll run down your stats again. So far, you've got 85 carries for 640 yards and 12 touchdowns throughout the 4 weeks. But one thing I wanted to talk to you about is how the offensive line has been performing throughout the first 4 weeks, because I feel like they've been dominating, like making those big holes for you. Just kind of talk about how the offensive line has been doing so far throughout the first 4 weeks as you continue to sack up points for your guys' offense.
Man, my guys been putting in work. Even though, like, when we at practice, we still, like, we make sure the O-line keep their head up because they don't really get a lot of credit. And a lot of O-line don't get a lot of credit. But I make sure, like, every time I score, I'm like, thank you. Like, just keep blocking. Like, keep doing your thing. Even if they do mess up and the coach yell at them, I'll be like, you still doing your thing. Just keep working because, like, I wouldn't be here without y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's important to obviously give your offensive line credit because they're doing a great job so far. And I mean, those numbers are crazy right now. And you mentioned playing or you were in track wrestling. Are you still doing other sports while you're playing football? Like, do you do other sports during other seasons?
Like, no, I'm not doing no sports like right now, but like during wrestling, I'll do like Raw Talent on the weekends or something like that.
Okay, so you're not doing any other sports. You're just focusing on football now.
Yeah, right now, yes.
Okay.
Let me rephrase that question. Do you wrestle so after football? Do you go right into wrestling?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, sorry, my questioning wasn't good.
Yeah, he's normally, clicking buttons. He doesn't know how to talk. He's not good with the talking talk. What weight, when you do wrestle, what weight do you normally wrestle at?
190, 195.
There it is. That's the big boy. That's the big boy category. That's where you got to watch your feet because your leverage is all you got. I've been in that.
And then it's like I'm like a small 190 in wrestling. It's crazy because it's like I'm like a small 190 in wrestling, but then in football, like I'm like a big 190. I don't know. It's like
the small 190s are the ones you got to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely.
And you said you run track as well?
Yes, sir. I do the hurdles. And the like sometimes like the 4x1 or like the relays.
Very good. Does Coach Nicholson does he promote that throughout the rest of your program as far as being multi-sport athletes when applicable or when possible?
Yes, he definitely promotes like track and staying in the weight room, like just flexibility, staying like in the weight room. Like that's his big thing of keeping us in the weight room. Like it's crazy because we be like, all right, give us a break, man.
What are some of the better, what are some of the skills that you use or that you learn from wrestling or from track or both that really assist you when it comes to football?
I say like I really got more flexible and more explosive and more balanced. I say that really helped me with football. Because, like, my main thing is because football is always my main sport, but now I started doing wrestling and track just to add on to going into football, like balance and, like, staying low and getting more explosive. Because, like, my legs got bigger from lifting with wrestling. I got more stronger from lifting with wrestling. My legs got more – I got more faster from doing track, and I got more flexible from doing hurdles and stretching and yoga. Like everything just adding up, and I see it. Like, cause I ain't know I was gonna go off this year. I was just like, everybody keep asking me, "What you gonna do?" I was like, "I don't know. Only God knows."
Yeah, Cornell. With that being said, my question is, you're doing all these different sports and you're working on your flexibility, you're working on, different aspects of the game. And did you set any goals coming into this season, or was it just, hey, just do your hardest and we'll see what happens?
Yeah, cause like my main thing for a while is like everything that's going on outside of football is like I don't want to like think it. So I sat down and prayed and I just let God take over. Like whatever happens from here on out is out of my control. I just focus on one thing at a time and I just take my time and I just do what I can do.
Well, Cornell, this week you guys face off against a familiar foe, Maple Heights, who we're familiar with in the Lake Erie League, and then you guys faced them and you lost 36-21. But what are some of the things that you could take from that game from last season, and as you guys get ready for them, and hopefully try and look to get to 5-0 for the first time since 2000?
like we different from last year. Like our mindset, like we had the talent, but we just ain't had a mindset, and we ain't believe in ourselves. But I feel like this year, like we're more as a family and we're more connected. So, like I said, we don't like go in there talking trash. We let the other opponent do that, and we just go in there and we dominate.
I got to ask you about the shirt. I love math personally. So I have to ask you: do you really like math, or is math your thing, or is it not your thing?
Help me out here. I love math, but then as soon as I got to high school, all that, man, geometry, algebra 2, I'm like, man, is this even math anymore? I'm like, man.
I can tell you, I love math. I minored it in college. I never did one proof, not one geometric proof since I left high school, or even my freshman year for that matter. But nonetheless, that's what you know. What though? It's like your opponents. They put it in front of you. You gotta do the work and you gotta dominate, right?
Yeah, I just like that's all. Just one like I feel like it's just I just look at it like it's lessons. Like all right, well if I can get through this, I know I'm gonna get through it. Like whatever don't like kill me, I'm still gonna it's gonna get done regardless of the fact.
Tell you what, Cornell, you guys have had a great start to the year. A familiar foe coming up this week, and with your wrestling and your track going on, the future's bright for you. And we really appreciate you coming on the show. Certainly appreciate your humbleness as well. So good luck to you this week, and of course for the rest of the year. And we'll see if we can't talk to either you or maybe some of the other Red Raiders over the course of the season. But great start so far. Stay healthy and continue to dominate, in your words.
I thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for coming on.
Have a good night, man. Thanks for coming on.
Good night, y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Good night. That is Shaker Heights. Shaker Heights is Cornell Beard from football, wrestling, track, and math class.
What the hell's a geometric proof?
I never liked math.
Oh, proofs are awful. Basically, they give you like a statement, and you have to use different bylaws and of different definitions and laws of things to prove it out.
Oh, wait, what's that? That's all of our viewers dropping off. So,
yeah, I know.
Actually, we just gained a few.
And I apologize. That's a question for after the show. I've never heard of a geometric proof before.
Well, that's what it is.
But then again, I majored in history, so we didn't have to do that in college.
Well, this was stuff in high school. Nonetheless,
really didn't do it in high school.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this show might be history here soon.
Yeah, let's get back on task here.
Just kidding.
Some great interviews, very great interviews,
Absolutely.
very positive interviews from Julian, Patti, and Cornell Beard.
No doubt.
As you mentioned, I think Josh was asking for Julian to be a hype man. I think Cornell can also be a show hype man as well. It's a great opportunity that we have to speak to these student athletes, no doubt. So let's get to the player of the week poll presented by Ray Felton State Farm Insurance. If anyone has the
here, let's hold.
Because I'm still Twitterless, Ed. I don't have the access to the Twitter. So
I actually got it right here, Ed. And the winner.
Hold on a sec. Hold on.
Ray Felton.
Hold on.
On the screen. Yeah, get it on the screen.
Easy.
Noah.
Easy.
Come on now.
He's excited.
Well, once it comes up there, you'll see why he's excited, Mr. GCC. No, spoiler.
That away.
Oh man.
Rob, you got it up?
Yeah, this one wasn't as close. Here, you want me to put it on the screen here?
Yeah, put it on the screen. I don't know if
Here
I
it is.
I don't think I can get it.
Okay, so with 45.3% of the vote, Harsh Patel of Strongsville is our Ray Felton State Farm Week 4 Sports on Tap Player of the Week. And he edges out Tim Phillips of Elyria Catholic. He had 24.7%. Wade Nelson of Avon Lake, 21.6%. And Casey Miser of Highland, 8.3%. Over 600, or there were 684 votes. Over 11,500 views on this poll. So I want to thank everyone who checked it out and voted and supported these high school athletes. And he will get a $20 gift card to Chick-fil-A, amongst other small gifts, including a certificate from Sports on Tap that says he is the Week 4 Sports on Tap Player of the Week.
Fantastic. Again, that is make sure you follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast, and make sure you'll be able to see who we nominate for the Ray Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week contests. Let's move on to the first of our the first installment of our Power 10 rankings. I gotta be honest with you, this was not very easy. The teams have done such a great job this year. There are a lot of 3-win teams, a lot of 4-win teams, and there's certainly some 2-win teams that deserve merit as well. But as we always do, we always start with the bubble teams. So I'll pop this on now. The bubble teams are already up on the screen. Sean had some fancy stuff to do for the other ones. So let's get to the Power 10. The bubble starts with number 1 on the bubble, and it goes down from there. So consider the first team on this list, Team 11, 12, 13, 14, respectively. All right, on the bubble is Shaker Heights at 4-0.
Nice.
Wadsworth at 3-1. Avon Lake at 3-1, and Olmsted Falls at 3-1.
Woo.
So you may be asking yourself, if these are the teams that are not in the top 10, who is in the top 10?
Dang.
I have been very steadfast in rewarding teams that win their games, and this is no different. And then if you look, you got to look at the quality of the wins and the quality of the losses as well. Shaker Heights is undefeated, and until they lose, until they come up against an opponent that can beat them, they're going to remain right around that bubble there. Wadsworth, Avon Lake, and Olmsted Falls each have a loss. Now, mind you, Wadsworth loss is against a very good Medina team. Their wins are pretty good, but maybe not as good as some of the wins that we've seen from other teams. Avon Lake and Olmsted Falls kind of in the same boat. They haven't gotten too much help from their non-conference schedule yet, but given who is ahead of them, including each other, there's certainly room for them to move up as well. So those are the bubble teams to start. Let's start off now with number 10. Oh, there's on the bubble in case you guys are wondering. All right, number 10, the 4-0 Westlake Demons. And the reason why they are here over Shaker Heights is the quality of their wins. They have more computer points than Shaker Heights does right now. And they have a very good opportunity to get more against another team that we're going to see here in a minute. But you can't discount what Westlake has done so far. Again, I try to reward winners, and they have won all of their games on their schedule. So that's why they are number 10. Number 9 is Buckeye. A very interesting matchup here. This will probably knock out one of those teams out of the top 10. And depending on what happens beneath that, there could be some heavy ramifications there. Buckeye traditionally has been very good. They have 2 very good wins over Cloverleaf and Amherst. Both of those teams are 3-1, and that's why they get a little bit more of the nod over some of the Southwest Conference powers that we're used to seeing up here. I will stop at number 6 after number 6 to debate if you need to. Number 8 is Medina. They're 2-2. You ask why they're up there. I will say that they have good wins, and that their teams that they've lost to are very good teams. And to a certain extent, you have to recognize how good they are compared to other teams in this conference. And I think Medina is one of the top 10 teams, provided they don't lose more than a few games. The same goes for Menor. Menor defeated Medina. They have to go above Medina right now. Menor's losses are to also very good teams. Riverside is phenomenal this year, and Ignatius is Ignatius. But they did defeat a very good Medina team. Not only that, they defeated them with their backup quarterback. That speaks to the depth that Coach Gray always talks about with us. And Again, 2-2-2 teams versus a couple 4-0 teams. You have to recognize the strength of who they play and in the strength of who they lose to. For those reasons, they are in the top 10 where they are situated. Number 6 is Nordonia. They are currently the only undefeated team in the Suburban League. They've had very good success so far, and they're going to start jumping into their own meat grinder, and that's going to lend itself to more opportunities. And kind of the same thing with Westlake. Until they've won all their games, until they lose, we'll see where things fall from there. So far we have Nordonia, Mentor, Medina, Buckeye, and Westlake as the bottom half of the top 10, and of course the bubble teams before. Any thoughts? You want me to keep going?
No, I mean I agree with those. I mean, you look at Mentor and Medina's losses. I mean, they're playing top-notch teams. I mean, and they have good wins as well. So, I mean, you look at Buckeye, Westlake, they're all undefeated, but Mentor and Medina, I mean, they play with some of the biggest boys in Ohio and even, outside of the state. So it's, they're pretty impressive. I don't have a problem with it, realistically. I mean, it's interesting to see if anybody else does, but I tend to agree with it.
I tend to I look at it, Ed, and I look at 6 through 9. I don't have a problem with at all. Don't. It's Westlake and Shaker to me. I think I would have placed Shaker just a little bit higher than Westlake. And again, when you look at the fact that they're both 4-0, and you look at just how impressive Shaker's been these 4 weeks, Westlake's had to kind of battle a little bit. Shaker really hasn't. Now, could that be a testament to who they're playing? Maybe, but at the end of the day, if all things being equal, both these teams are 4-0, I think the eye test tells me that Shaker Heights is a more explosive offense, and I would have probably put them again. I would have just switched them, but the fact that 9 and 10 are playing each other this week, I think it's going to take care of us. But that would be my only real issue with this. Is that I think Shaker Heights deserved a little bit of rub there because I just think that what they're doing against who they're playing is a little bit more impressive than what Westlake has done against maybe some stiffer competition. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying there, Sean. And if you're looking at the scores too, I mean, Westlake has defeated 2 winless teams by 1 score. The last 2 weeks, and one of them took a 50-yard field goal to do it.
Right.
I don't disagree with you. I went back and forth with those 2 teams a few times, to be honest with you. But to your point, I think this week will certainly kind of shake that out a little bit. Because if Westlake can beat Buckeye and Shaker beats Maple, the Westlake win is going to be far and away a better win than Shaker being Maple.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But opinion. I think you can also,
So I think that'll kind of separate them a little bit more. Now that Westlake is going to go against someone who's above their weight class, I want to see. We can see what they do there, and then Shaker is going to go against a familiar foe, similar size, very very comparable. And I think this will end up taking care of itself in the middle of it. But your points are valid for sure.
All right, let's see the top 5. I'm excited to see the top 5.
Number 5, North Ridgeville.
Ooh. Whoa.
I think they deserve it. They've defeated a 2-2 Midview team. Their best win is Olmsted Falls, and that's a win that they've been searching for years, and they finally got it. And that win is going to be the gift that keeps on giving for them, especially for computer points' sake. Now they're going to go against a team that we're going to see a little bit later here, and we'll see where things shake out there. But far be it for me to not reward them for that. They have the best win out of all these teams out of all the 4-0 teams. They have the best win. And they played very competitively, and they've done some work. So North Ridgeville is in the top 5 based off what they've done now. All these rankings do allow for significant movement as the season goes on. But for right now, I'm choosing to reward them for how they've started. Number 4 is Highland. Highland is the defending Suburban League American Conference champions. Their only loss is to a team we're going to see here very shortly, and they have pretty much dominated everyone they've played up to this point too. So they're picking up right where they left off, and until someone else beats them besides someone who's ranked ahead of them, I think they are one of the best teams in our coverage area. Number 3, Hudson. By virtue of their victory over Highland, they get the nod again. Another traditional power. Their only loss is to number 2, Cleveland Heights. Cleveland Heights is a monster right now, and it took a Catholic team from out of state to beat them, it was a close game at that. Cleveland Heights has explosivity. We saw them go through some adversity against Brunswick in their first conference game, and they came out on top. You can argue that was, Brunswick's 0-4. But if we know anything about Brunswick, they get better as the season goes on. And even though they're 0-4, they're not a team to sleep on. And Cleveland Heights was able to get through that game. Marquise Davis is one of the best running backs in the state, and they've proven themselves, and they defeated Hudson.
Right, and I was actually at that game, and they were actually down 17-0 early, and they worked their way back to actually, come away with that victory. So, pretty valid argument for number 2 in the Power 10 rankings.
In the last or number 1, and I think quite honestly, unless these teams play each other, it's far and away it's Avon. Avon is the number 1 team in our area, and I don't see. Right now, I don't see how that changes unless they lose, or unless some other teams get some big victories. Cleveland Heights has some opportunities. Hudson does play in a very tough conference, same with Highland. But Avon, they defeated the defending Division 4 state champions. Glenville's going to run through everybody else in their schedule, I think, pretty easily, and potentially repeat as champions. And we know what Avon's like. But they're not infallible, though. Every team has a chance to get them, and they still have tough games coming up. So that is the initial installment of the Power 10.
But wouldn't it be nice to have a Power 10 tournament? I mean, Avon versus let's get Avon and Cleveland Heights or Hudson together and get them on the field. That would be fun to watch. I mean, there's a lot of great teams here. It's crazy, really, and you're going to have number 1 and number 5 play this week. Josh, you saw number 2 face number 3, so they're kind of facing off a little bit. And these teams they're all really good teams, even the bubble teams. I mean, they're having all great seasons, and it's going to be really fun to see how this fluctuates and how they move up and down and see really what some of these teams do this season. Are they the real deal, or can they hang with the big boys? We'll soon find out as we get more into conference play and into some of these league play.
Yeah, the difference, and there's a lot of 3-1 teams that did not make the bubble, and that's really because the bubble has to be a certain amount. Like, it can't expand the bubble too far, but you certainly can't discount Brecksville, Broadview Heights, or Bay, or Amherst, or Kent Roosevelt. There's a litany of 3-1 teams. Aurora, those are I think those are the remaining teams that have 3 wins that are not too far off from where the bubble is. It's just trying to separate all of those is a little bit. It's not fun, but you look at some of the strength. You look at the strength of Van Lake and Olmsted Falls, and Wadsworth and Shaker. They have a little bit more strength overall up to this point, but again, that doesn't mean they can't change. A lot of these teams, because a lot of these teams are going to play each other, and a lot of this is going to get settled on the field, and that's how we want it. So. That is the initial installment of the Power 10.
Nice job, Ed.
So, thank you much.
I like it.
We will That'll be updated on a weekly basis up until the end of the season. And again, just because your team is number 5 or number 8 right now doesn't mean you can't jump up. And honestly, just because the team's number 4 right now doesn't mean they can't drop out. It is a fluid Power 10. It's based on winning. It's based on computer points. The looks, even though you can argue I didn't really take that into consideration between 10 and the bubble, but nonetheless, it is a very subjective thing to do. But nonetheless, I think we have a good list there. So let's get to where we're going next week. Again, follow us on Twitter to get all of the live updates for the games that we are going to be at. Where are we at next week, guys?
All right, we're nowhere. Great job. Congratulations. No, I'll go first. I'm going to head right down the street here in North Ridgeville and see the Avon Eagles face the North Ridgeville Rangers, the battle of the undefeateds in the Southwestern Conference. Excited to go to North Ridgeville. I haven't been there in a long time, but it's been a long time since North Ridgeville's been undefeated and really have been playing at a high level. So let's see where they stack up after that Olmsted Falls win, if they can carry that over to Avon, because this is probably going to be obviously easily their biggest test of the year. Don't all talk at once.
Noah, where are you going?
Well, Sean, I will be switching up the Greater Cleveland Conference to the Great Lakes Conference. I'll be heading down to Buckeye for the first time ever as the undefeated Westlake Demons, for the first time at 4-0 since 2013, face off against the Buckeye Bucks, also at 4-0 for the first time since 2017. Another battle of the undefeateds, and this could be a very interesting game. I feel like both teams are very high scoring on offense, and I think their defense is going to be pretty good. And you never know; it's always a meat grinder in the Great Lakes Conference, and you never know how this can turn out.
Very nice.
Great, that's fantastic. Noah, you're gonna have fun down there in Buckeye. I love going down there. That's a great atmosphere. People look at you weird because you're on the sideline. They almost look at you like you're jealous because you're on the sideline and they're standing along the fence. But hey, that's how it rolls at Buckeye. I don't know the rules there. I don't make the rules. Guys, I was sitting watching the Cleveland Browns this weekend just dismantle that crappy team from down south, and I said to myself, Self, what are you gonna do this week? And I said,
oh boy.
You know what I'm going to do this week? I'm going to go to one of my favorite places to go, and that's Barberton. I am going to make the trek. I'm going to load up the pack horse. I'm going to load up the chuck wagon. I'm going to take that long drive on 480, a little bit south, and I'm going to go to Barberton. And I'm going to watch the Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders take on the Barberton Magics.
Nice.
Guys, this is the first game that we have ever covered of Kent Roosevelt live. I know it's an away game. I wish it was a home game, but it's an away game. So I'm interested to see, is this Kent Roosevelt team for real, or are they a flash in the pan? I'm also really intrigued to see Dominic Wilson and Xavier Macon and how they're performing offensively. But guys, let's be honest. If you can't make it to these games, if you don't know or you don't have the bandwidth to watch all the games or follow the scores on Twitter, even though we're providing some of the best Twitter coverage in the world, you've got one option. You just come here on Monday nights and you listen to us spew it all out. You hit that subscribe button. You hit the notifications bell. I've been doing this for 3 weeks now. Granted, last week I was in a weird hat. This week I got a bit of a cold. I'm not feeling that great. You know what helps me feel better when I'm not feeling that great? I cuddle up and I watch SOT podcast. I watch recent interviews. I'll watch the video highlights that Noah and Rob and Josh put together every Friday night. I'll reread my own articles that I write on my website. Do you know why I do that? Because I'm a bit of a narcissist. But also because it's
his website.
It's my website. I'm the only one on it. Don't mess with me. I'm on a roll, Josh.
Sorry.
I lost my train of thought. But that's where I'm going to be. We're going to be in Barberton. But again, if you want to find the best coverage of high school football, now that we're deep into conference play, we got the Power 10. Ed rolled out the Power 10. I mean, guys, we are legit in football season now.
No doubt.
Yes, we are.
And Ed, I want to tell you, man, we've gotten. I mean, we were down to, people were dropping off, and you brought them back with this. They saw the power of 10, and it revived everybody. I mean, the show was blowing up here.
Well, I asked about a math proof, and it turned into a bad episode of Goodwill Hunting. So that's what happened.
My apologies to the Glenville fan who's probably commenting. They're not in our conference or coverage area, hence they can't particularly join our Power 10. But
that's probably a good subtle reminder that we currently just cover the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Great Lakes Conference, the Suburban League, and the Southwestern Conference. So,
yes, if you're wondering why St. Ignatius and St. Ed's isn't on there, that's precisely the reason why. We don't talk about them unless they play one of our teams. So, but very good, great effort as well. All right, that's going to wrap it up for our show. Next week, the Browns do play on Monday night, so we are currently internally discussing when our show is going to be. It's either going to be Sunday night or Tuesday night. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast or check out our website, sportsontapodcast.com, to find out when that show is going to be on. We will be live again on our YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at Sports on Tap, on Threads at SOT_podcast. Of course, any comments, concerns, and the like, make sure you email us at sportsontapodcast@gmail.com. Again, next week we will be at North Ridgeville to see Avon take on the Rangers. We're going to be at Buckeye to see the Demons from Westlake take on the Bucks. We're going to be at Barberton to see Kent Roosevelt take on the Magics. Again, follow us on SOT Podcasts, or follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcasts to get all those live updates. For Rob Troutman, Noah Jacobson, Josh Jeffrey, and Professor Hype, Sean Duffy, my name is Ed Dick. This is the Sports on Tap High School Football Show presented by Ray Felton State Farm Insurance. Stay tuned for our sponsors, and we'll see you on the other side.
And Noah might be playing Monday night, looks like. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is on every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
With the auto insurance market constantly changing, call a professional that will put your needs first. Ray Felton State Farm is a team of licensed professionals that will assess your risk, explain coverage in detail, and assure you understand what would happen if you ever found yourself in a claim situation. You can visit rayfelton.com or call their office at 234-284-2996 for a free quote on your home, auto, renters, and life insurance needs.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
Hand-and-built leather goods. Leather goods built for life. Made by hand in the USA, all goods are made with veg-tanned leather. Some of the best quality around and made by a U.S. veteran. Check out their website, www.handbuiltleather.com. GV Art and Design is a creative boutique specializing in original artwork, design, and apparel. With 4 locations in Lakewood, Avon, Willoughby, and Kent, you can visit their store and check out their collections including Cleveland sports teams, Ohio colleges, and much more. Use the code ONTAP10 for 10% off your order. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind.